In 1958, as Nigeria was approaching independence on the world stage, a state-backed airline, then called WAAC Nigeria, later refounded as Nigeria Airways in 1971, launched its inaugural international service from Lagos to London. The aircraft was a BOAC-operated Stratocruiser, covering approximately 5,000 kilometers with a mandatory refueling stop. At its peak, Nigeria Airways connected Lagos to New York, Johannesburg, and a dozen cities across West Africa, with a fleet of roughly 30 aircraft. Pilots and crew called it the pride of the nation because, for a brief window, Lagos felt like the center of the African sky. Then, in 2003, the airline was dissolved, debts had mounted, mismanagement had spread, the fleet had dwindled, and with Nigeria Airways gone, Lagos surrendered something far more consequential than an airline. It surrendered the idea that West Africa could have a global aviation hub. For 2 decades since, a painful truth has settled over the region. West Africa, home to over 400 million people and anchored by a Nigerian economy generating more than $360 billion annually, has no true intercontinental hub airport, not one. Lagos sits perfectly between Europe, the Americas, and the rest of Africa, but no one has built the infrastructure to exploit it. Now, in 2025, Lagos is making its most serious bid yet. A proposed mega airport at Lekki-Epe, designed for 20 million passengers at full build-out, a revived open skies agreement with the United States, a bilateral interline deal linking Air Peace directly to Emirates, and its 140 destinations through Dubai. But here's what makes no sense. Lagos's existing airport, Murtala Mohammed International, handles just over 7 million passengers annually. Addis Ababa's Bole International handles over 12 million, anchored by Ethiopian Airlines, Africa's largest carrier. Ghana's Kotoka International is already being positioned as West Africa's most efficient transit hub. Yet every major airline operating into West Africa – Emirates, Ethiopian Airlines, British Airways, South African Airways – is watching Lagos with unmistakable interest. So, how can a city with a congested, undersized airport and no flag carrier threaten hub empires built over decades? To understand why Lagos keeps surfacing in these conversations, you need to understand why West Africa is perhaps the most justified region on the planet for a new intercontinental hub, and why nobody has managed to build one. Look at a map. Lagos sits at approximately 6 degrees north latitude. It's roughly 5,000 kilometers from London, approximately 8,450 kilometers from New York, about 6,400 kilometers from Sao Paulo, and approximately 4,500 kilometers from Johannesburg. In aviation terms, these are all comfortable wide-body ranges. No ultra-long-haul modifications, no stripped-down fuel-optimized cabins. Standard twin-aisle aircraft, loaded with passengers and cargo, can reach every one of these destinations from Lagos without extraordinary engineering. Compare that to Dubai. Dubai International sits at 25 degrees north latitude. Its genius was positioning itself as the midpoint between Europe and Asia, between London and Sydney, between Frankfurt and Singapore. Emirates exploited this geography ruthlessly, building a hub-and-spoke network that now serves over 140 destinations. Lagos offers something structurally similar, but for a different set of corridors. It sits at the natural intersection of 3 massive traffic flows: Europe to Southern and East Africa, the Americas to West and Central Africa, and intra-African routes connecting the continent's western seaboard to its eastern and southern economic centers. Now, a word from today's video sponsor. Here's something that quietly costs frequent flyers a lot of money: booking a flight and then watching the price drop a week later, with absolutely nothing you can do about it. That's the problem SkyKey was built to solve. SkyKey monitors the price of your booked flights in real time, and every time the price drops after you've bought your tickets, it automatically gets you your money back. About half of all flights drop by around $120 on average after booking, and if you're flying regularly, that adds up fast. Depending on your fare type, your savings come back as a cash refund, a future flight credit, or points and miles returned directly to your airline account. Your seat, your itinerary, your flight times, nothing changes. It's free to sign up. If they save you money, they charge 25% of the savings as their fee. So, on a $100 price drop, you'll get $100 back from the airline, and then they'll charge your card $25. No savings, no charge. Simple. It works with refundable and non-refundable tickets on Delta, American, United, Southwest, and Alaska. Just book directly through the airline rather than a third party. And note that basic economy fares aren't eligible. For anyone who flies even occasionally, it's genuinely a no-brainer. Link in the description. The wider region generates demand across Accra, Abidjan, Dakar, Freetown, Monrovia, and Banjul, cities that individually lack the population to justify long-haul non-stop services, but collectively represent tens of millions of potential connecting passengers. This is precisely the market structure that made Dubai work. Individual origin cities that cannot sustain direct intercontinental flights, funneled through a single megahub that aggregates demand. The physics work. The geography works. What hasn't worked is everything else. The most glaring absence in Lagos's hub ambition is the one thing Dubai had from the beginning: a purpose-built airline with a hub strategy embedded in its DNA. Emirates didn't emerge accidentally. The Dubai government created it in 1985 with 2 aircraft and a mandate. Every route decision, every fleet order, every schedule was designed to maximize connections through Dubai International. The airline was the hub's reason for existing. Lagos has attempted this 3 times. Nigeria Airways collapsed in 2003. Virgin Nigeria, which went through 2 further rebrands, becoming Nigerian Eagle Airlines, and then Air Nigeria reached a fleet of around a dozen aircraft before being grounded by regulators and shutting down permanently in September 2012. And then came Nigeria Air. The Nigeria Air saga deserves its own examination because it reveals the depth of the institutional challenge. Announced in 2018, backed by a consortium that included Ethiopian Airlines with a 49% stake and Nigerian private investors, Nigeria Air was supposed to launch in October 2023. Instead, 3 days before the outgoing Buhari administration left office in May 2023, Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika staged an unveiling ceremony featuring a Boeing 737 leased from Ethiopian Airlines, temporarily repainted in Nigeria Air livery. The aircraft was returned to Ethiopia shortly afterward. Aviation Minister Festus Keyamo, appointed by the incoming administration, suspended the project, ordered an investigation by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and in May 2024 officially abandoned it. His reasoning was blunt: it was never Air Nigeria, it was Ethiopian Airlines trying to fly our flag. If it is so, why not allow a local airline to fly our flag? The question wasn't rhetorical. What has emerged in the absence of a state carrier is something arguably more interesting. Air Peace, Nigeria's largest private airline, is executing a hub strategy without government ownership, and is doing so through global alliance building rather than fleet scale alone. In March 2024, Air Peace launched direct Lagos to London Gatwick service under newly secured bilateral rights. The London route was a proof of concept for something larger. In January 2023, Air Peace activated a comprehensive interline agreement with Emirates. The structure is revealing. Passengers flying from Banjul, Dakar, Freetown, Monrovia, Accra, and other West African cities can now book single-ticket journeys through the Air Peace network, connecting via Lagos, Accra, or Abidjan to Emirates flights to Dubai and onward to London Heathrow, Gatwick, or Stansted through checked baggage, single itinerary, no separate bookings. Emirates Deputy President Adnan Kazim stated explicitly that the partnership allows us to expand our footprint across more of Africa via Lagos. Air Peace Chief Commercial Officer Noel Nagala described it as reinforcing Air Peace's role as a critical bridge between Africa and the global aviation ecosystem. This is not a partnership for convenience. This is the architecture of a hub strategy. Air Peace feeds regional West African traffic into Lagos. Emirates connects that traffic to the world. Lagos becomes the collection point, the aggregation node that Dubai was for the Middle East in the 1990s. And Air Peace is expanding further. The airline is acquiring Boeing 777-200ER wide-body aircraft to launch direct routes to Sao Paulo, Antigua, and Houston, a route enabled by the US-Nigeria Open Skies Agreement that entered into force in May 2024, after more than 2 decades. But here's where this entire story takes a big unexpected turn. The significance of Lagos's hub ambition isn't about Air Peace's route network, and it isn't really about airline alliances. It's about what a single piece of infrastructure can do to an entire continent's competitive assumptions. Consider the mathematics of what Lagos currently operates with. Murtala Mohammed International Airport was built in 1979. Its new international terminal, inaugurated in March 2022, was designed for 14 million passengers annually. But initial layout and apron design flaws limited actual utilization so severely that the airport still processes just over 7 million total passengers per year. There are no dedicated airside transit facilities. The airport lacks full 24-hour operational capability. Dr. Alan Onyema, Air Peace's chairman, has stated plainly that even with a 200-aircraft fleet, Lagos cannot function as a hub without substantial airport infrastructure upgrades. This is the fundamental constraint. Air Peace can sign interline agreements with every global carrier. Nigeria can open its skies to every country on Earth. But if the physical airport cannot process connecting passengers seamlessly, quickly, and comfortably, the hub strategy collapses at the terminal door. This is precisely what the Lekki-Epe International Airport is designed to solve. The proposed facility would occupy 3,500 hectares, adjacent to the Lekki Free Trade Zone and the Dangote refinery, creating an integrated aerotropolis linking aviation, industry, and commerce. The specifications are deliberately ambitious. A 4.5-kilometer Code F runway, capable of handling the largest wide-body aircraft in service. Initial capacity of 5 million passengers annually, scaling to 20 million. A cargo terminal designed for 2 million tons per year. The estimated cost has escalated from $450 million when first proposed in 2011 to approximately $2.5 billion at current projections. The Lagos state government is pursuing a design, build, finance, operate, manage concession model with the China Airport Construction Company, expressing interest in the partnership. The airport's original target was 2028. Given historical delays, including a period between 2014 and 2022, when the project lay dormant after investors withdrew over land disputes involving 98 local communities, that timeline carries significant uncertainty. But the airport is not speculative in isolation. The Lagos Metro Green Line, unveiled in April 2025, is specifically designed to connect downtown Lagos to the Lekki Airport site. Dubai understood something early that most aviation markets learned late. A hub doesn't serve its own population, it serves everyone passing through. And the most single important policy decision for a transit hub isn't about runways or airlines, it's about visas. Dubai allows passengers to transit without any visa for connections under 24 hours. For longer layovers, visas are issued on arrival with minimal friction. The seamlessness is not an amenity, it is the foundational mechanism that allows Emirates to sell Lagos-Dubai-Singapore on a single ticket, without the passenger ever worrying about documentation. Nigeria's current transit visa framework is the opposite. A transit without visa permit is valid for a maximum of 48 hours and strictly prohibits leaving the airport. For layovers requiring hotel accommodation, a standard transit visa requires confirmed onward tickets, proof of sufficient funds, hotel reservations, and advance application. Compare this to Addis Ababa, where Ethiopian Airlines moves millions through Bole International with streamlined airside transfers. The recent bilateral air service agreement with the UAE, updated in 2025, broadens possibilities and enables Emirates Air Peace interline connections. But these agreements only matter if the passenger's experience on the ground matches the ticket's promise of seamlessness. Nigeria has begun addressing this. These are incremental improvements. A true hub requires dedicated international transit zones where connecting passengers never interact with immigration at all. Most competing hubs cannot ignore what Lagos is assembling, but neither can they easily be displaced. Addis Ababa remains formidable. Ethiopian Airlines operates 36 weekly flights into Nigeria alone, evidence of the massive demand it captures by routing West African traffic through Eastern Africa. Ethiopia is constructing Bishoftu International Airport with an initial capacity of 60 million passengers when its first phase is completed around 2029. Kenya Airways anchors Nairobi Jomo Kenyatta International. South African Airways links Lagos directly to Johannesburg and Cape Town. Within West Africa, Ghana's Kotoka International Airport is progressing more efficiently toward hub development. Abidjan and Lomé have carved out transit niches through regulatory efficiency rather than raw scale. Yet none of these competitors possesses Lagos's fundamental advantage: sheer market gravity. A metropolitan population exceeding 21 million, an economy that dominates West Africa, origin and destination traffic so substantial that even without transit passengers, airlines can fill aircraft profitably. Dubai's early years looked similar. Emirates launched with 2 aircraft in 1985, serving a city with a fraction of Lagos's current population. The difference was coordinated execution, airport, airline, visa policy, and tourism strategy moving in lockstep. Lagos has the demand. What it demonstrates now with the Air Peace Emirates Interline, the Open Skies Agreement, the Lekki Airport proposal, and the visa reforms is whether it can coordinate the execution. The aviation industry has always measured African hubs by their infrastructure and ease of service. Lagos has other advantages. That demographic gravity, geographic positioning, and alliance architecture can matter more than any single airline's fleet. That a city processing 7 million passengers today, underpinned by 400 million people in its catchment region, represents compressed potential rather than permanent limitation. Air Peace doesn't need to become Emirates. It needs to become the aggregation point that makes Emirates and every other global carrier dependent on Lagos for West African feed traffic. In 1958, Nigeria Airways launched from Lagos because a newly independent nation wanted to prove it belonged in the sky. The airline lasted 45 years before collapsing under the weight of mismanagement and political interference. The route was national pride and not really strategy. 6 decades later, the Lagos hub proposition represents something fundamentally different, not a state vanity project, but a commercial argument built on geography, demographics, and logic. Not a single carrier's ambition, but an ecosystem designed to capture traffic flows that currently bypass the entire region. When those first wide-body aircraft begin rotating through a completed Lekki-Epe International, connecting Dakar to Dubai, Freetown to Sao Paulo, Accra to Houston, they'll compete a circuit that took over 20 years of false starts to make possible. One airport, liberalized visa policies, and proof that sometimes the most significant shifts in global aviation don't require the world's largest airline. Sometimes they require the world's most underserved geography, the right partnerships, and the willingness to bet that 400 million people deserve a hub of their own. The question isn't whether Lagos can become Africa's Dubai, it's whether the rest of the industry is really paying attention. Hey, before you go, the YouTube algorithm thinks you're going to like this video next, so why not check it out?